Have you ever wondered what secrets lie buried within forgotten photographs? In 1862, a seemingly innocent portrait captured a forbidden alliance on a southern plantation. Two white twin daughters, suffocating under their tyrannical father's rule, plotted a daring rebellion. Their unlikely confederate? A young enslaved man, yearning for freedom. This isn't just a tale of defiance. It's a legend born from shared desperation and a pact that defied an entire society. By the end, you'll uncover how one image became a testament to a revolutionary act, reshaping lives and echoing through history. The year 1862 pressed heavily on the sprawling Virginia plantation, a landscape of forced labor and quiet despair. Towering oak trees, draped in Spanish moss, seemed to whisper tales of generations bound by injustice. Master Hawthorne, a man of rigid will and unyielding cruelty, ruled his domain with an iron fist, his decrees absolute. His twin daughters, Eleanor and Clara, though cloaked in the finery of their station, felt the stifling weight of his tyranny as much as any other soul on the property. Their lives, too, were dictated by his whims, their futures meticulously planned, offering little room for their own desires or spirits. Among the many working the fields and manor, a young man named Elias moved with a quiet dignity that belied his enslaved status. His gaze held a deep intelligence, and his every action was marked by a meticulous care, born not of servitude, but of a quiet, enduring hope for a life beyond the oppressive boundaries of the plantation. The air was thick with unspoken tension, a fragile peace maintained by fear and strict adherence to a brutal social order. Yet, beneath this veneer of control, currents of discontent swirled, unnoticed by the master but felt keenly by those who yearned for a different dawn. The plantation, with its grand facade and underlying rot, was a powder keg, waiting for the smallest spark. And somewhere within this oppressive tableau, a single, unassuming photograph would eventually become a powerful, hidden record of a profound secret, connecting disparate souls in an act of profound defiance. Eleanor and Clara, though outwardly compliant, seethed under their father's relentless control. Their days were a gilded cage, filled with empty social rituals and the constant threat of his unpredictable temper. He dictated their attire, their conversations, and even their thoughts, crushing any spark of individuality. They had witnessed his casual brutalities, the dismissive way he treated human lives, and the insidious manner in which he manipulated everyone around him, including them. The girls understood that their comfortable existence was merely another facet of his dominion, a privilege granted at the cost of their freedom and self-respect. One stifling evening, after another particularly humiliating public dressing down by their father, the twin sisters huddled in their shared bedchamber. The room, usually a sanctuary of girlish secrets, now felt like a prison cell. Their whispered conversation was a desperate symphony of frustration and growing anger. They spoke of the suffocating future planned for them, of arranged marriages to equally domineering men, and of a life where they would merely trade one master for another. The thought ignited a fierce resolve in their hearts. They would not become extensions of their father's will. They would break free. But how? The realization dawned that confronting him directly was suicide. They needed a plan, one that would dismantle his power from within, a subtle rebellion that would escape his notice until it was too late. This was not merely about escaping discomfort. It was about reclaiming their autonomy and striking a blow against the pervasive injustice that defined their world, even if only within their own secluded corner of it. The idea, born of desperation, quickly took root, blossoming into a dangerous, defiant seed. Their audacious plan required more than just cunning. It required an insider, someone who moved through the plantation unseen, yet saw everything. Their gaze fell upon Elias, the young man whose quiet demeanor hid a formidable intellect. They had observed him over the years, his sharp mind often apparent in the subtle efficiency of his tasks, the thoughtful way he engaged with the world, even under duress. He was different from many others, carrying himself with a dignity that suggested an inner world far richer than his circumstances allowed. The sisters knew the risks were monumental. Approaching an enslaved person with a proposition that challenged the very fabric of their society was an act of treason, a betrayal that could cost them everything, including their lives. But they also recognized that Elias possessed a unique perspective and a deep understanding of the plantation's inner workings, far beyond what they could ever grasp from their privileged, yet confined, vantage point. He knew the rhythms of the house, the master's habits, the hidden pathways of information and gossip. More importantly, they sensed in him a spirit that yearned for something more, a hunger for freedom that resonated with their own desire for liberation from their father's tyranny. The decision was made, silently and with trembling resolve. They would seek out Elias, not as their father's property, but as a fellow soul trapped within the master's domain, a potential ally in a shared, desperate bid for a different future. The weight of this decision, the sheer audacity of it, settled heavily upon their shoulders, a chilling blend of fear and exhilarating hope. The path forward was fraught with unimaginable peril, but remaining stagnant was no longer an option. The clandestine meeting took place under the cloak of twilight, deep within the tangled roots of an ancient banyan tree at the farthest edge of the plantation, a place known only to a select few. The air was thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and the tension of their unspoken anxieties. Eleanor, ever the bolder twin, spoke first, her voice a low, urgent whisper that cut through the chirping of crickets. She laid bare their audacious scheme, to systematically expose their father's long-hidden financial deceptions and cruelties to his influential business partners and the community, thereby dismantling his power and control. It was not a plot for violence, but for utter ruination of his standing, ensuring his downfall. Clara added, her voice trembling but firm, the crucial promise: if Elias aided them, they would not only secure their own emancipation from their father's tyranny, but would also guarantee his freedom, providing him with the means to escape and begin a new life far from the plantation's shadow. They produced a small, crudely drawn map showing a safe route north and a pouch containing a few precious coins, a small fortune saved over years. The magnitude of their proposal hung heavy in the air. For Elias, it was an unimaginable gamble. Failure meant brutal consequences, not just for him but for them all. But success meant freedom. The sisters' faces, illuminated by the faint glow of moonlight, were earnest, desperate, and filled with a conviction that transcended their privileged upbringing. They were offering not just a chance, but a partnership, a dangerous, fragile bridge built on mutual desperation and a shared enemy. Elias listened, his eyes unblinking, his mind racing through the calculations of risk and reward, hope and despair. The weight of generations of bondage rested on his response. This was more than a plan. It was a desperate prayer whispered into the night. Elias's mind reeled with the audacity of the twins' proposition. Freedom. The word shimmered with an almost unbearable brilliance, a beacon he had dared not fully grasp for fear of it dissolving into cruel fantasy. But the path to it, laid out by the young women, was fraught with an abyss of danger. He knew the master's wrath, a cold, calculating fury that spared no one, least of all those who dared to defy him. To be caught in such a conspiracy would mean an end far worse than his current existence. His heart throbbed with a terrifying mixture of hope and paralyzing fear. He observed Eleanor and Clara closely, trying to penetrate the veil of their privilege and desperation. Were they truly committed, or were they merely naive children playing a dangerous game? He searched their eyes for deceit, for wavering resolve, but found only a fierce, albeit fearful, determination that mirrored his own yearning for liberation. He spent the next few days in a state of heightened awareness, watching the master, watching the sisters, weighing every gesture, every interaction. He saw the cold dismissal in the master's eyes when he looked at his daughters, the subtle flinches, the quiet despair in their own gazes. He recognized the familiar patterns of oppression, even if the gilded cage of the master's daughters was different from his own. He realized their freedom was also curtailed, albeit in a different form. The spark of shared humanity, an unexpected recognition of kindred spirits trapped within the Master's dark orbit, began to ignite within him. This wasn't merely a transaction, it was a desperate gamble for shared liberation. He saw not just two pampered young women, but two souls suffocating under the same tyranny, albeit in different chains. The decision, though terrifying, began to crystallize. The risk was immense, but the promise of a life unburdened by ownership, even if earned through such treacherous means, was a force too powerful to ignore. The alternative was a continuation of his present, a life without true self, without hope. The path was set, though veiled in danger. To solidify their perilous alliance and seal their trust, the twins devised a profound, symbolic act. Deep within a secluded grove, hidden from prying eyes by ancient, twisting cypress trees, they gathered at a small, weathered stone basin where rainwater collected. This was no ordinary meeting. It was a ritual, a silent pact that transcended the rigid societal divisions of their time. Eleanor, with a grave seriousness, carefully poured water from a delicate silver pitcher, normally reserved for their father's table, into the basin. Clara, her eyes reflecting the dappled sunlight that pierced the canopy, took a deep breath. Then, with a gesture that defied generations of ingrained hierarchy, she extended her hands towards Elias. "We must cleanse ourselves of the old world," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "and prepare for the new, together." Elias, his heart pounding a rhythm of both fear and an unfamiliar sense of profound connection, hesitated for only a moment. Then, in a moment of extraordinary courage and trust, he, too, extended his hands. The sisters, gently, with reverence, poured the cool water over their shared hands, symbolically washing away the divisions of master and enslaved, of privilege and oppression. Their eyes met, a silent vow passing between them, a pact of unity, forged in the face of unimaginable danger. In that fleeting instant, illuminated by a beam of golden sunlight, a sense of shared humanity bloomed, a defiant recognition of each other as individuals bound by a common enemy and a shared dream of freedom. This was the moment the legend began to weave itself into the fabric of their lives, not through any act of exploitation, but through an unprecedented act of symbolic equality, a radical break from the cruel norms of their world. A small, hidden camera, set up beforehand by Eleanor, clicked softly, capturing the profound solemnity of this illicit communion, freezing forever the image of their audacious, forbidden alliance. This single photograph, a silent witness to their shared humanity, would become the ultimate testament to their perilous pact, a defiance etched in time. With the pact sealed, the intricate dance of their rebellion began. Elias, leveraging his intimate knowledge of the plantation's daily rhythms and the master's secretive habits, became their eyes and ears. He moved through the manor like a shadow, observing every ledger entry, every hushed conversation, every misplaced document. He noticed the master's late-night visits to a locked study, the specific dates on which certain financial documents were consulted, and the anxiety etched on the master's face after letters arrived from distant cities. The twins, meanwhile, used their privileged access to the master's private quarters and correspondence. They meticulously pieced together clues from discarded notes, fragmented conversations overheard during dinner, and the increasingly agitated tone of their father's voice. They discovered inconsistencies in his ledgers, whispers of defaulted loans, and secret land deals that stretched the bounds of legality. Elias would subtly misplace vital documents, ensuring they would surface at opportune moments, or accidentally leave a key unlocked, granting the sisters temporary access to restricted areas. Their actions were small, almost imperceptible at first, designed to create a slow drip of suspicion and doubt rather than an immediate explosion. They understood that unraveling their father's carefully constructed world required patience and precision. Each day brought new pieces to their dangerous puzzle, each successful maneuver emboldening their spirits and strengthening their resolve. They were a trio moving in perfect, perilous synchronicity, each playing their part with calculated risk. The plantation, once a symbol of unbreakable power, was now a chessboard, and they, the seemingly powerless, were making their moves with a dangerous, quiet confidence. The air hummed with unspoken tension, a game of hidden agendas played beneath the very nose of their unsuspecting oppressor. The stakes were life and death, and their determination was unyielding. The master, a man accustomed to absolute control, began to feel the subtle tremors beneath his feet. Small inefficiencies, misplaced documents, and vague, unsettling rumors started to circulate among his business associates. His temper, always volatile, grew increasingly frayed. He barked orders at his overseers, questioned his bookkeepers with a suspicious glint in his eye, and subjected his daughters to intensified scrutiny, sensing a shift in the atmosphere of his home, yet unable to pinpoint its source. Elias, with his acute observations, noticed the subtle changes in the master's routine, the longer hours spent in his study, the agitated pacing, the increasingly suspicious glances he cast upon everyone. The young man conveyed these shifts to the twins through coded messages and fleeting glances, allowing them to adjust their strategy. Eleanor and Clara found themselves navigating their father's volatile moods with heightened caution, their innocent facades becoming more vital than ever. They continued their clandestine work, escalating their efforts with careful audacity. They began to leave carefully selected pieces of information in plain sight, ensuring that the master's business partners, during their visits, would stumble upon suggestive, albeit incomplete, evidence of his financial malfeasance. The whispers grew louder, transforming into murmurs of concern among the planter elite. The master, once impregnable, now appeared vulnerable, his reputation beginning to fray at the edges. Each calculated move by the trio chipped away at his authority, creating cracks in the foundation of his power. The stakes were higher than ever. Discovery now meant not just punishment, but utter annihilation. The tension was a living thing, breathing down their necks, demanding unwavering courage and a steady hand. They were drawing closer to their goal, but the master's growing suspicion cast a long, dangerous shadow over their every step, threatening to engulf them all in its darkness. The carefully constructed edifice of Master Hawthorne's power finally began to crumble. One fateful afternoon, a delegation of his most influential business partners arrived unannounced, their faces grim, their voices low and accusing. Armed with irrefutable evidence, documents Elias had discreetly copied, inconsistencies the twins had highlighted, and anonymous tips hinting at fraud, they confronted him in his study. The master's usual bluster and arrogance gave way to a desperate, pathetic attempt at denial, but the weight of the proof was overwhelming. His empire, built on deceit and exploitation, was exposed. Elias, watching from a hidden vantage point through a crack in the study door, saw the master's face drain of color, his shoulders slump in defeat. The man who had terrorized so many was finally broken, stripped of his authority and his standing. The sisters, having orchestrated the delivery of the final, damning evidence, retreated to their room, their hearts pounding with a mix of terror and exhilarating triumph. The plantation, his primary source of wealth and power, was seized by his creditors to cover his vast debts. The land, once his unassailable domain, would be divided, sold, and reimagined. His name, once synonymous with power and prosperity, would become a byword for disgrace. The master, financially ruined and socially ostracized, became a shadow of his former self, his tyranny reduced to impotent rage. The world he had created, and in which he had reigned supreme, had collapsed around him, not with a violent explosion, but with the quiet, devastating efficiency of a carefully orchestrated plan. The air on the plantation, though still heavy with history, felt subtly different, lighter, as if a great, oppressive weight had finally been lifted. The chains of his control, both visible and invisible, had been broken, creating an unexpected pathway to a new future for all involved. In the chaotic aftermath of the master's downfall, a fragile window of opportunity opened. The plantation, now in disarray and under new, temporary management, no longer held the rigid grip it once did. For Eleanor and Clara, the collapse meant an unexpected liberation. Their father, consumed by his own disgrace, no longer dictated their every move. They were free to forge their own paths, away from the suffocating expectations and the specter of arranged marriages. They chose to seek refuge with distant relatives in a burgeoning northern city, eager to build lives defined by their own choices, not by inherited wealth or patriarchal control. Their departure was quiet, almost unnoticed amidst the turmoil. Before they left, in a final, hushed meeting, they honored their promise to Elias. They provided him with the remaining funds they had salvaged and reinforced the details of the safe route north, a path that had been subtly prepared through their network of contacts over the preceding months. Their eyes held a profound gratitude and a shared understanding of the dangerous journey he was about to undertake. Elias, clutching the small pouch and the map, felt a surge of emotion. The weight of generations seemed to lift from his shoulders. This was his chance, his true liberation. He embarked on his journey under the cover of a moonless night, leaving behind the only world he had ever known, carrying with him not just the hope of freedom, but the silent, powerful memory of an extraordinary alliance. The photograph, the testament to their secret pact, was carefully divided. Elias carried a small, folded piece of the image, a tangible reminder of the young women's courage and his own daring. The sisters kept the other portion, a memento of their shared defiance. They parted ways as equals, their lives forever intertwined by the dangerous secret they had shared, each carrying a fragment of the truth that had set them free. The road ahead was uncertain for all three, but it was a road they chose, illuminated by the beacon of their newly won autonomy. The tale of Master Hawthorne's sudden and mysterious downfall, of his inexplicable financial ruin, and the quiet departure of his daughters, became a whispered legend in the southern states. No one truly understood the intricate web of events, the subtle sabotage, or the extraordinary alliance that had orchestrated his demise. The official story spoke of bad investments and poor management, a convenient narrative that protected the illusion of inherent white male authority. But in the hidden corners, among those who dared to question, hushed rumors persisted of something more profound, something unsettling that spoke to the precarious nature of power. Meanwhile, far from the oppressive heat of the South, Elias, now known by a new name and living under a new identity, found his freedom. He built a quiet, purposeful life, always carrying the small, weathered fragment of the photograph, a tangible link to his past and a testament to the courage of those who helped him. He never spoke of the plantation, nor of the twins, but the image served as a silent reminder of the day he became truly free. The twin sisters, too, lived their lives with a newfound independence in the bustling north. They honored their pact of silence, carrying the other piece of the photograph as a secret talisman, a stark reminder of the dark past they had escaped and the radical act of solidarity that had granted them agency. The memory of their alliance, an act of rebellion born from desperation and a shared yearning for liberty, became the true foundation of their character, influencing their decisions and shaping their moral compass. The full story, the truth behind the legend, remained locked away for generations, held captive within the fragments of that single, powerful image. But the very existence of the photograph, passed down through quiet means, ensured that the essence of their defiance, an enslaved man and two privileged young women uniting against a common oppressor, would never be entirely forgotten. It stood as a silent testament to the enduring human spirit, a beacon of unexpected hope in a time of profound darkness, and a symbol of how even the most unlikely alliances can forge an unyielding path toward liberation. It was a legend whispered, a truth preserved, waiting for a future generation to finally piece together its profound and inspiring narrative.